Alrighty guys, well welcome back to another one. I figured I'd show this bike in its final form. I got a lot of things that I put on this bike. A lot of stuff was inspired from some of the builds I've seen online from, Quasi and Birch and Gus, and a lot of things that I kind of tried and true, and some things were blind buys, some things were more or less like creature comfort. So I figured I'd go through and kind of quickly just show what I have on the bike and kind of what works for me and the way I have it. So this is a 2023 Rebel 1100 DCT, and the first thing that I added when I got this bike, because it was a naked cruiser, was this Memphis shade windshield, because a lot of the buffeting that happens, is happening on my chest when you're riding for a couple, 100 miles a day. You start getting a headache and a lot of wobbles and stuff, and it wasn't fun. So I figured first investment was going to be a windscreen. All my other bikes and scoots have it. Was a must-have for this one. Next thing that I got was these Auxbeam auxiliary lights. As you can see, I have the yellow lens in. I never bothered changing them to the white ones because I like the yellow look on this bike. So I'm going to show that off here. I have the Auxbeam. In fact, all my auxiliary charging stuff, lights and stuff, are connected to the HealTech ThunderBox, which is another upgrade. Talk about that later. But as you can see, they're very bright, and at night, I mean, they make a world of difference. Not only they add a field of view, going forward, but it's wide too, so you get a lot of coverage side to side and then forward. And so I really like the yellow look. And even in daytime, these things are super bright. It makes you really visible when you're behind cagers, and makes a big difference. And the whole look of it is fantastic, relatively cheap. And again, anything that makes you more visible, be it sound, be it light, I think it's, a must-have on motorcycles. And just to keep in mind, these don't come with brackets, so I'll link all this stuff that I got, the light and the bracket. You have to get those separately, but again, Buddy Bezos coming in with the same day delivery. So next thing that I got that I thought was really important, you spend $10,000+ on a bike, you want to get something to protect your investment. So I got crash guards for this bike. These are the T-Rex Racing crash guards, as you can see. I don't really care for the finish of it. Not that I was going for a particular fit and finish for the bike, because you can see the exhaust, Kaufman's exhaust is a little bit different. So these are the T-Rex Racing ones. They're a little bit more industrial feeling, but they're heavy duty, I'll tell you that. And it really helps with mounting these lights, and I do plan on putting some highway pegs on there. Other than that, again, I got these off of, I think it was one of those eBay stores. It was like a new old stock type thing. It was a reseller, and I was like, "No, I'll take it, man." I offered him, and offer your $100. He's like, "Yeah, take it." So I took those crash guards, and relatively easy install. And again, you want to protect your investment. You're north of $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 on these bikes, so you definitely want to have something that's gonna protect the bike, and at least the bulk of the engine and all that other stuff. Handlebars and grips and stuff like that are replaceable, but so that was another important thing for me. The next thing, it wasn't really a must-have creature comfort wise, but it does make a difference when braking, which is this pedal extender. The stock one is about this short and that wide. This one it's very grippy, has a lot of grooves and edges in it. So if you really need to dig down into it and do a short stop, which I hope no one has to, but I've had it a couple times, and it really does help, with braking. The next thing that I got, which is probably one of the most popular upgrades for these bikes, is the ROX 4-inch risers, because anyone that rides Rebel knows that it doesn't matter how tall you are, you're leaning forward to the to ride the bike. So it's not the most conducive for long haul riding. So I got the 4-inch risers, and I still have stock wiring and brake stuff. It's just a little bit of rerouting that you have to do. Instead of going up, you'd come back. So, and then also you have to relocate this the gauge. So it comes with all that stuff in the kit. So that was another must-have, because when you're riding even when you're cruising around town, you don't want to be like this for 30-40 minutes at a time, let alone 10 hours a day doing iron butt. So that was a very important one. That's a very popular one as well on these bikes. And so that was another must-have for me, and I did it immediately. I did that and the windshield together when I got those. Moving along, the next thing that I got was this Mustang seat. I had 3 seats for this bike. I have the OEM thin profile, like from the factory seat, and then I have a comfort seat, which is it's supposed to be thicker and it's supposed to bring the rider closer to the bars, because a lot of people complained about, obviously, the reach to the handlebars. So Honda came out with an OEM, I think it was $100, and I still have that comfort seat. And then I figured I wanted to go a little bit more premium, so I got this Mustang Tripper Solo seat. Had to drive all the way to Miami to get this thing. A guy on Marketplace was selling it, but he said, you got to come today, and I'll give you this brand new seat and Burley brand pegs for both sides. For $140, so I couldn't say no. The seat alone is about $380, plus minus tax and shipping, depending on the retailer you get it from. So I saved a ton of money, and I crapped away a half a day of driving to get it, but it was well worth it. And it's very comfortable. And I got more to come on that, because I'm going to do a trip that I have planned, cross-country trip, and I'm really hoping to get that tested and really see, put some mileage on it and really get a feel for it, because I've heard a lot of great things about it. I was going to go for the Corbin, but Corbin, you're talking a lot larger seat, customer service is not better, and the biggest thing, which is the freaking price. You're talking, it's a small fortune. You're talking $600, $700, $800, depending on the configuration of seat you get. Even the Solo ones are, I think, about $650. And I'd rather deal with a company that is gonna, not be childish. You can look at Birch's video about the Corbin seats, but yeah, Mustang seat was it just made sense price, and it just came up, so it worked out for me. So that was another creature comfort that I got. Another mod that I got, which a lot of guys do, it doesn't have to be this specific one. Shout out to Aaron Quasi for this one. He's contributed a couple mods on this bike, but the biggest one has been this Kaufman's exhaust. Thing sounds great. You can, there's plenty of videos online. This is the Kaufman's Thunder, and it adds to the, it's not too short and it's not too long, and it's a perfect exhaust. Everyone loves the sound of it, and the price point, it's $400, but it's well worth its weight in gold. It sounds great, and it fits right in, looks really stock with the bike. So I don't know if you'd consider that a mod or an upgrade, but that's another common one a lot of guys do. They either throw the Kaufmans or the Vance and Hines one on, or the Two Brothers. So that's another popular one I got. And moving along, we'll come to the back of the bike. The next most important thing that I really wanted for touring, and just because this bike lacks a lot of OEM storage, and or like from the factory storage, outside of the storage you get underneath the seat, and that's not real storage. You're not going to take it to the store and grab stuff. So for me, that was these saddlebags. So again, shout out to Quasi Motard, Aaron, out in Houston. He's kind of pioneered or figured out that you can have 2 left bags. So this is the original left bag, and this is another left bag that works. When I went to the dealership, and because I ordered these from the Honda dealership near me, and he's like, why do you want 2 left bags? I'm like, dude, trust the process. And then once I got it, and then I installed it, and he's like, okay, now this makes a lot more sense. Paired with that Kaufman's exhaust, this works phenomenally. And I think Kaufman and maybe the Shorty GP, I forget their exhaust, they're both Kaufmans, I believe, only work with this configuration. So you get pretty much double the storage. I think the OEM right bag, because the stock Honda exhaust comes all the way under here, and it's like this big, so there's no way that it would fit. So if you see the stock, even the Rebel 1100T, the touring one, you'll see the right hard saddlebag is a lot shorter. It's about halfway bigger. It's about, I think, 4 or 5 liters. This one's a full 10 or 12. So it's very symmetrical, and this was the only aesthetic thing that I did on the bike to keep it symmetrical, and you get more storage. Who doesn't want equal storage on both sides? So shout out to Aaron for that. Worked out flawlessly, and it worked. I mean, it's like a charm. And these are quick release bags, good quality bags made by one of the few OEM things that OEMs are making, that is made from SW Motech. Pretty reputable company out there. And if you don't like these bags, these mountain systems will also work with their Legend Series bags, I believe, and maybe some other ones if they have new ones. So that was another important one for me for touring, and just if you're out in town, you want to throw some things in there, and pair that with a little tank bag. Perfect. So yeah, that was another important upgrade for me, was storage, because whether you're touring or even local, you want to have some space on the bike to put things on. Yeah, you may not be able to. Actually, you probably could put a gallon of milk in there, but in theory, if you're going around town doing small grocery runs, or you need to put, your laptop in there, I've done it a couple times and it works great. And it works fantastic. So these are a must, if you ask me. Storage, if you're more of a casual rider, storage may not be important to you, but I feel a lot of people that do any type of short distance, even in-state touring, you're going to want some sort of saddlebags. And the OEM ones and the Vikings are the two more popular ones that I've seen, because they're the most factory finish without having to drill and do all this kind of extra stuff. And I wanted to avoid that, and thank God Aaron came up with this, or figured out this hack here, and it works great. And it checks out all around. Next thing that I have, I can't really show you, but it's a brake modulator from Custom Dynamics. So basically what it does is when you slightly tap on the brakes, or you press the brakes in any capacity, the front or rear, it flashes your rear brake light. So the Custom Dynamic one, you unplug the original harness, and it's a 5-10 minute ordeal. You take out the brake light harness, you plug in the Custom Dynamic one, and you take the other side of the factory one, you plug it into the Custom Dynamic one. It kind of sandwiches it in, I believe, and it just makes it a flasher. And you can customize the pattern. So if you wanted to flash 3 times, so on and so forth, there's different patterns you can go for. So that was an important one for me, because visibility on bikes is very important. And that was one that was, the stock light looks nice, but I think, being seen and heard is very important. So that was an important one. I think it was about $90. And again, it was a very easy DIY. You can do it yourself. No splicing required, plug and play type deal. So it worked out perfectly. And then the next thing, I don't have it on the bike yet, because I haven't figured out how I want to mount it, which is a Denali SoundBomb. Because of T-Rex crash guards, it's a little bit of a trick to get the Denali SoundBomb to sit correctly. So I'm still figuring out wiring. I have some, extensions that I'm going to make to the wiring, and then hopefully get it mounted, because I want it facing down. Because if you're spending $40-50 on a horn, which is really loud and it's very important to be heard, you don't want it to get wet and go bad on you quick. So I think that's it. Did I cover everything? I'm trying to think of anything else that I missed. Outside of highway pegs and the Denali SoundBomb, everything else I have on the bike. Let's do a quick check. And the rear rack, that's another important one. So the rear rack, this is not an OEM one. Honda does sell one just like this. This is a another Buddy Bezos find. I wasn't going to add a passenger, seat pillion. I never ride with a pillion anyways. So it was important for me to have some sort of, instead of just having my dry bag lay on the fender, I figured I'd have a rack. I think this was like $40. Fits nice and works out perfectly. I just put the dry spec on there last week and tested it, and it was flawless, and it holds up, and it actually goes really nice with it looks very factory, because it has that gloss finish, and it kind of goes in with the frame here. So that checked out. Another thing that we talked about earlier was these lights. They're tied into a ThunderBox. I might have talked about it, but I'm just going to say it again. It's another upgrade that all my bikes get, because it's a controller that prevents any type of overloading to your charging system, and it keeps it all in one controller. So instead of having all your accessories and your chargers tied to your battery, you have that one controller that goes to the battery, and everything else plugs into that controller. That's why there's a slight of there's a bit of a delay, about 5 to 8 seconds delay on the lights turning on. So say that you had a charger, like a quad lock charger, wireless charger plugged in, and your phone was on there, you would probably see power going to these lights, and the quad lock come up together, turn on and off, and so that goes for anything else. If you have heated grips, it's not going to be instant when you turn the bike on. It's going to take 5 seconds, but it prevents overloading your system and your circuits and whatever, or your computer on your bike, and without it going crazy. And more importantly, if you've experienced a drained battery when you're out and about, that's probably the worst thing, especially when you're stranded. And then sometimes the batteries on bikes are not the most accessible. Like for this bike, it's underneath this seat, and you got to take out all kinds of crap to even get to the battery, and it's really in there. It's like way in here, the battery. So yeah, it's not the most accessible to jump. So yeah, it's not like a Harley. You can just put a cable to the starter and get her going. And bump starting this thing, I don't know. It's a DCT, so I don't know how that would work. But yeah, so those, I think it was a $60, $70, $80. I got it off of Amazon. It was a pretty cheap, or off of eBay, and I bought a couple of them because I like to have some spare, and I was gonna put it on my PCX, and I did before the Cannonball, and it worked out great. And yeah, it totally works out. So I think we've covered everything. That's everything that I have for this bike. I think this bike in its final form, I think I've got it perfect. Outside of the highway pegs, I think this bike is ready. I took it on that 500-mile shakedown last week, and it performed no problem. Only thing that I've added, and again, everything else is stock. There's no performance upgrades done to the bike. If you count the exhaust, I don't know. It's not really a stage 1 or 2, right? So, yeah, there's no real performance things done to this bike. The shocks are still stock, front and rear. I know a lot of people like to put the Burley brand stilettos on there. These are, I believe, Showa, yeah, Honda's subsidiary. So they work good for me. I didn't have a reason to adjust them yet because I got so low miles on this thing. So the only other complaint that I have, or upgrades that I would do when due time comes, is the tires. You'll ask any Rebel 1100 owners, and even I think 500 and 300. I've owned both bikes, all three bikes, all 2023, and I don't know if Honda has a deal with the makers of these tires or what it is, but they suck. They're absolutely trash. The 1100s, they're all garbage. They're not good, so I figured out, I only have 1,800 miles on this thing. These do get a little bit better when they're worn in, but again, it takes time, and the cruise techs are the gold standard for these bikes. Even Michelin's, anything above these would be better. Let's just put it that way. So, yeah, these tires absolutely suck. And, once I get to that probably 5, 6, 7, 8,000 miles, once I come back from my bigger trip, I'll gauge it, and, I might change it, and that'll be kind of the last thing. But other than that, this bike is, tour ready. It's ready to go. There's not any other things that I'm going to do to the bike, performance-wise. Keeping it stock, no flashes, nothing like that. I'm not a crazy rider. Don't care to go over 100 miles an hour. So this thing works great, and I think the upgrades that I have done to it, they're very tasteful and, the most important, functional, because, adding a, like a gray colored lever, it was going to add like 0.1 horsepower. So yeah, anyways, I say that to say, the great thing about motorcycles, you can make it, you can make it how you want it, and you can cherry pick what you want. And that's the beauty of it. And that's kind of why I said it was kind of inspired from, Aaron, Birch, and Gus, and a couple other guys. And a lot of things were trial and error. Some of the things were kind of, blind buys, and, you win some and you lose some. But I think the only thing that I do have on order that hasn't came in yet was like, there's these like, Kamimoto has these like little hard case bags you can put on either side. So I'll probably have those just to pop in, like, like maybe a charger or something, or have some like AV equipment there, gear, so chargers, or maybe some extra batteries for the cameras, 360 cameras. Other than that, man, this thing is ready to go. So that's pretty much it, guys. We'll do one more walk around of the bike, get a nice view. We'll get it running that way. The sun has set. Look at that, 1839. We'll start from the back. And we'll do that too. And that's it, folks. And I'm going to call it quits here. That was it. I just wanted to show how this bike and how I have my Rebel 1100 basically tuned in. And we'll end it here with a Kaufman's exhaust little listen.